And that kind of that leads me into, I guess, another important part of the chapter, and that's meditation. And I think that's an aspect of meditation, right? Is to reduce the amount of external stimuli, center yourself, and just kind of go within. But I think people misconstrue this by shutting off your mind, which is interesting because a lot of people deem this or term it as being mindful. You're practicing mindfulness. So it's kind of the opposite in that. Could you kind of talk a little bit about meditation as well?
Yeah, so you're right that I hadn't thought about that paradox before, but mindfulness versus the emptying of the mind. That's a good one. Uh, the I think the issue is that most people, frankly, don't have a very mm, well-defined concept of what's going on in their heads or in their minds. Uh, they think the little monologue that's going on in there is them, or uh,
Right.
whatever aspect of that is them. So then you get, well, I'm supposed to be doing something with my mind, so it has to do something with thoughts, and it's about being peaceful. My thoughts are bothering me, so therefore I must be seeking the place where there's no thoughts. Um, and maybe that's has been helpful for some people. Maybe that's why people speak that way. But for the most part, people find that very, sorry, very unhelpful and distracting because that leads you sort of naturally enact the technique there where you say, well, if I'm meditating, that means I have no thoughts. So that means I'm going to continuously turn my mind in and check to see if I'm having thoughts. But the problem is that action is itself driven by a thought. So you have to have the thought, am I thinking right now? That spurs that action. And so you're just centering yourself around that thought. And so in terms of the what you might call the Eastern, the more passive meditations, the idea is to detach from all those thoughts. And there's another quote from the same Buddhist teacher who says, don't worry about the fact that your mind's not clear. Don't worry about the fact that you're caught up in these issues because worrying about it is just adding another layer. So, um, so that's a counterintuitive point of meditation. And a lot of people will say, sitting down and doing meditation terribly is doing meditation properly. You're supposed to sit there and not get anything out of it and not have anything work. And so it can be frustrating and it can be disappointing as long as you think, that is your goal. And then, people say, oh, yeah, so you use this as a technique. You tell yourself that it's not about that. And then somewhere down the line, you have that experience where you do have no thoughts. And then that's what you were really looking for. And you just had to tell yourself this thing to get there. And then people, they skip the steps and they're like, oh, right. So that I am looking for that. So I should look for that. And it's just like, no, it's like, it's not about that. It's not about, um, achievement in that sense. It's not about, well, okay, if we're if we're going to talk about meditation, I'll go all the way with it then and say I wrote a blog post on the Visuddhimagga, which is a text Buddhist, yes, Buddhist text on how to meditate, essentially the most effective way to meditate. And again, that in itself proves the point of there's a purpose here and there are more effective ways than other ways. But within the early stages of it lays out a pretty counterintuitive idea. And it says that the proximate cause of peacefulness or of a clear mind of meditation or of concentration or absorption, whatever particular word they use. The proximate cause of that is bliss. So it's actually not that you meditate and then become blissful. It's that because of the reality, the already present and given, gifted, not earned reality of blissfulness, therefore you are able to meditate. So you're drawing on this capacity that's already there in order to achieve, which isn't the right word, achieve the state of peacefulness or meditation or absorption. You don't, it's like the idea of truth, or sorry, I should say reason. Reason is there not because of my intellect. Reason is there because truth is there. Because truth is there, the reason is possible, and then my intellect is the thing that allows me to engage with reason. But the reason for reason is not my intellect. The reason is the presence of truth in itself. The same way, the reason or the cause of meditation is not me trying to meditate. It's the fact of a joyful, blissful, peaceful reality that underlies everything. So meditation is more about like resigning into that. That sounds weird for a positive state, but setting yourself on the hope, you might say, that that's true and that that reality does underlie everything and that it can shine forth, and just sitting in that and letting it blossom. That I think that's a far better way to explain it and pursue it. So
So you're saying, so just as reason is the tool for the intellect to become familiar with the truth, meditation is the tool for us to tap into an already pre-existing blissful state.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
Okay. And that's, you know, I think most people have a difficult time with meditation for one of two reasons. One is that they're overly stimulated and can't be without their cell phones or without some sort of an anchor that takes up attention, um, which is understandable. I mean, at the early stages, I mean, it's a process, and that leads to
right.
this issue is it's not necessarily an instant gratification. It's not that kind of a process. It's delayed. Just as, if you go to the gym, you're not going to be jacked after your first workout. You're going
Mhm.
to go through some trials and tribulations, learning processes. It's gonna take a while for you to start to reap the rewards. But eventually they do come. And that hurdle, that stumbling block that most people face is I think they're anticipating that instant gratification, just as with everything else. But it takes that desire, it takes that engagement to go through the process and really familiarize yourself with the tool that meditation is, to then potentially get into tap into or tap into those states of blissfulness.